So, the essence of my work is related to the combination between music and consciousness. Music is a door to higher consciousness, but it can also be a door to lower realms and to, frequencies that are low, basically, right? I'm a classically trained cellist who came to the US when I was 20 years old. And right after I graduated from college at the New England Conservatory of Music, I basically I started a whole new journey in the unknown of living in a foreign country. I met excuse me, I met a spiritual teacher who literally changed my life. And I'm sure you know what it's like when you're meeting somebody that is really charismatic and really makes sense to you and you feel really drawn to them. That gets you into a whole new realm of exploration. And I basically went deeply into considering who I am beyond my identity, as a musician. And it was really cool, the fact that I was in a foreign country, because that gave me the freedom, you can say, to just listen to myself, listen to my own intuition. And I basically went through this phase that you could say like I was in some type of a pause from what I was pursuing before. My intention was to really examine, like I said, this quality within myself. And the more I matured, then the more I really tapped into the magic of me, you could say. The bigger, or it's not even a bigger, it's the more expanded my ability to show up as a musician was. And so that tells you already something about my journey. And basically, over time, I was able to express myself more. Like I started tapping into music production around 30 years old. After meeting my teacher, I was 23, 30 years old when I started producing. And then about 40 is when I remembered again that I really have a knack for improvisation. That was something that I knew from high school, because that was like my favorite class in this really cool high school I went to. And I remember feeling very liberated during that class. But here's the thing. It was kind of unexpected in the way that it came together. It was not something that I conjured or consciously thought was going to be the case. But as it was happening with this individual, I realized that, oh my God, this is something that I totally have forgotten that is so deeply within me, like this quality of in the moment channeling, being able to create something out of nothing, like create music, and not just play, but also orchestrate this entire piece with layers and loops and effects and all that stuff. And it evolved over time. It was something that once it was turned on again, I realized that was my, how should say, like that was kind of like my niche, First I called it Ruticelli in the moment. That was a name that I had for it for a while, and then it evolved into intimate cello. Intimate cello was like an offering of a container where people came together to experience this journey of going into the sound of the instrument. And not only was it about creating music on the spot, right, composing on the spot, but it was also tuned to 432 hertz, which is a frequency that activates intuition and creativity that really like uplifts the activity of the right brain. And so people were coming there to experience that. And out of that, it evolved into aura tuning. And aura tuning is essentially a modality that I created to support individuals on their journey of self-awareness, self-exploration, like self-knowledge, basically, that you can see this as part of the subconscious journey of being with yourself. Like you're receiving sound as a way of experiencing yourself. After you've had an education for your personality with the human design system that I have been working with for the past almost 5 years. And that system, if you're familiar with it, it's very much about you discovering yourself, realizing your genius, and then being able to, through that genius, through your unique lens, you can support other people. You can literally share with them the wisdom that you have learned throughout your own journey of deconditioning. And what that means is basically that you're forced to look at your habits of being, your habits of acting, your habits of doing, your habits of thinking, because underneath it all, if you were able to track yourself back from when you were a child, as long as you can remember yourself, to really see where you picked up everything, like why do you speak the way that you speak, or why do you act the way that you act, and actually recognize how much of it is you and how much of it is conditions, right? So this is really it comes to a point where it requires a lot of reflections. It requires a lot of, and that's hard. That's really hard because you really need to be able to read your own mechanics, to be able to understand what you're actually observing. So like you think about something and then you relate that to your mechanics, like it's quite complicated. But I teach a system for others to become familiar with this process. And not only do I educate their personality and educate them from a place of their conscious mind, I take that into the subconscious with a cello transmission. When I sit with you, like after you had a reading with me, and the reading is quite, deep, and then you can take away the words, you can take away all of the like the conceptual stuff, and you actually sit with it in your body and you receive the transmission. What ends up happening is on the subconscious level, you start receiving the transmission too. And that becomes aura tuning. That becomes this process of like you're able to recognize the magic of you through really going deep into your mechanics, through really going deep into the energy of you, like the unique energy that only you have. So that's why I call it aura tuning, and that's the evolution of the work that I do as a differentiated being who is evolving and who realizes that it's through my own understanding of myself I get to support other people.